Welcome back to Remembering Smallville, a Smallville rewatch podcast. I'm Daniel.
I'm Nicole.
I'm Kim.
And I'm Brett.
Season 1, Episode 7, Craving.
In this episode, Clark must save Pete from being literally devoured by a female classmate, Jody Melville, whose diet of kryptonite-affected vegetables causes her to shed weight faster than she can handle. So as you guys know, one of my favorite foods is artichokes, and we discussed it at length when Lex ordered 30 artichokes a few episodes ago.
Yes,
we
did.
Because we're friends, we don't just only record podcasts, we hang out. So secretly behind Daniel's back, Kim texted me and said, if I bring artichokes for dinner, can we surprise Daniel or would he freak out? And I was like, no, let's do it.
Because he hates the smell. Did we talk about this? I don't know.
Yes, and then as soon as I walked in the house, I smelled the artichokes cooking, and I was like...
But he didn't say anything.
When Nicole eats them at home with Daniel, she makes sure that he's not home. And then she disposes of the smell.
I only cook them when I know he's going to be gone for hours. And then I'll open the windows and doors and try to air it out as best I can. Because I'm a kind person. I'm not kind enough not to eat them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I text her, I was like, would he be so mad? And she's like, who cares? Let's do it.
Well, it didn't make me mad. I was just like, ew, artichokes.
And I can't believe you knew right when you walked in.
Oh, even when she tries to cover up the fact that she's had artichokes, I can smell it instantly. I can smell the faintest bit on it. And it's the worst is that I told her you have to close the other rooms to the house because everything else smells like artichoke after that. And it drives me crazy.
It's like I dreamt of artichokes last night because it was on my pillow.
Brett made a brisket. Kim made artichokes.
That brisket was so good.
That made up for the artichoke smell, right?
It's a perfect thing that we had a big feast before this episode, Cravings, right?
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't even planned.
It was perfect. I'm so happy. And we're all stuffed. And we did make Daniel eat an artichoke. Well, not an artichoke, an piece of artichoke.
And a piece.
Did. I'm so proud.
And it was okay. It just didn't bring me joy. So I'm not going to continue the tradition of eating it.
He literally made a little kid sound when they eat vegetables. He said, bleh.
Yeah, that was partially for comedic effect. But yes.
It worked.
Your daughter tried it for the first time, too.
I couldn't believe it. And both daughters tried it. And the one that doesn't like vegetables liked it. So now her
It's
and
a
I
win.
can bond through
You can
artichokes.
clink leaves.
Clink leaves.
Leaf clinkers.
I told her I'd never share a piece of my artichoke heart. And Nicole did it first. And I was like, all right, I better be a good mom and share some of my heart. Thanks for helping me be a better person, Nicole.
Anytime.
Nicole's not stingy with her artichoke hearts.
That's true. I spread the love.
Well, that's funny because one of Nicole's love languages is sharing food. And so if she's eating something, she wants me to take part in whatever it is that she's eating. And so she will offer me a piece. And if I say no, thank you, she's like, but, and she gets really sad. So I've learned I have to just indulge if she
rejected her love.
I just want to share the experience.
I love that.
And one of her favorite things is to clink whatever we're eating. So if we're eating anything that's the same, she wants to find something in the meal that we can clink if possible.
Do you do that too?
Oh, I thought I was the only one. I can't believe you clink things.
I love to clink.
Oh my gosh.
I also thought she was the only one that clinks things.
And I say, clink.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I love you so
we'll
much.
get ice cream cones and she's like, we can clink cones.
Mm-hmm. And when you watch Despicable Me and he goes, clink, when he has a tea party with his daughters.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's my favorite. Okay, while we're on the Nicole topic, Daniel, Brett, and I, Kim, we actually do community theater. Super ghetto community theater, but we love it, right? Nicole has not joined us yet on stage. She will in the future, we know it. But we're super used to being in front of a microphone or in front of a camera or on stage in stage lights. And for some reason, when we started this podcast, it's like Nicole's calling.
I've been calling myself the steamroller because as we edit these episodes, I think, oh, someone else please take the wheel.
No, you are so naturally good at it. And I'm like, wait, we're the ones that go on stage. Nicole doesn't. And she is like, this is her hidden talent. So
It's because her audience is hidden.
Maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, she does this. We had her stream as well, playing a video game. And she just is a natural. I don't know what it is. You put her
So
in front of a
funny.
mic and even a camera. If the audience isn't in the building with her, she just is herself, and herself is really funny.
I'm sure I could do the theater, but at the same time, I would just be nervous learning lines. I think I'd be happier if I was just doing improv. You know,
you'd be
because
good
then
at
you're
it.
just wheeling and dealing. It's free form. You just say yes and go with it. I think I would be happier because I'm so easily distracted and my mind will like wander.
Yeah.
And I just think I just stress being like, I have to pay attention. Okay, he's saying his line. Like, I just don't know if I could do it, but improv I
Yeah.
think would be better.
I'm the other way around. I can't think quick on my feet. If I'm nervous, I'm trying to like say something and think of a word, it won't come.
And Nicole's just a spontaneous little nugget.
I love it.
It's true.
Speaking of spontaneity, that probably doesn't fit with this episode, but we're going to roll with it.
But our
and
full
that's our
bellies
transition.
do.
Yeah.
So let's transition into talking about this episode, Cravings. In this one episode, we have two characters that show up later in Snyderverse videos. One is Amy Adams as Lois Lane. The other one is he's playing Dr. Hamilton in this, but he plays Dr. Silas Stone, another one of those alliterations, who is Victor Stone's father, otherwise known as Cyborg, his father. He's the one who does the experiment to bring forth Cyborg. So it's kind of interesting that they pulled people who guest starred in Smallville into main roles in the Zack Snyder movies, which I thought was really funny. Just made me think about that.
That is so cool.
Yep, so we have Amy Adams, and Daniel was like, is she wearing a fat suit?
Okay, that's funny you bring that up.
And I was like, well, obviously. He's like, well, I don't remember what happens. And I was like, you don't?
Yeah, I couldn't remember. I think I skipped this episode too whenever I watch it.
So I've never seen it. So of course we have the lovely Amy Adams guest starring. And I was like, oh, she's a little thicker when she was younger.
That's what I thought too. I was like, maybe she was
good
chubby
makeup.
back then.
Yes. And then she turned and I saw her triple chins and I was like, oh, okay, that's a fat suit.
Yeah, that was a similar thing to me. I was like, she's wearing a fat suit.
And trigger warning, this episode deals a lot in bad dieting practices.
Trigger warning.
I mean, for some people, it
true.
really might be.
My youngest daughter, she's almost 11. And she was playing a game next to us during this, and I was like, "Oh, of course, you're watching this episode with us. Like, let me talk to you about eating disorders." You know?
I know.
There you go. It sparked a conversation.
As Amy Adams says in the show, losing weight is never pretty. And that right there is the triggering comment that you get, is that mindset that losing weight is never pretty. Just that incorrect concept of seeing how weight loss works.
Well, and
That's
there's
the
the whole
problem.
thing of your value is based on
What you
your
look
weight.
like.
Exactly.
How you look.
That's exactly it. By thinking that losing weight and prettiness have any connection. is a
Except,
different
like,
thing.
everything that she says, I have felt. Every single thing that she says, every feeling that she has, I have felt all those feelings.
Yes,
100%.
I think most women or girls have. Yeah, which
And
is
whoever
sad.
wrote this kind of understands.
Or you go on a date and you think, I'm just never going to eat again. I will just starve. It's not worth it. It's how you feel.
Yeah.
So everything she's feeling is totally valid. It's not her fault that her green smoothies are poison. Like, it's not her fault. She was doing what every one of us has done.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I'm going to have a smoothie for every meal. I'm going to only eat vegetables. I never cut my head out and put it on a model. But
I have friends that did.
But I felt everything she's felt.
Yeah.
So
We interrupt this premium program for this special announcement. We need you to follow us on social media. Our link is in the description.
I had a question for all of you. Do you like Pete Ross more because of this episode?
100%.
totally.
He is
What a
good
stud.
kid. Man.
And Chloe.
Oh, yeah, that too. But I always loved Chloe.
I like how we have to just roll with the fact that they're all pals, kind of. And there's some history, even though we've never seen it. They've clearly had class together. They eat lunch together. You kind of have to roll with it, even though
Yes.
she's brand new.
Oh, yeah, every time they bring in a new character, it's like, oh, that person's always been there.
Yeah.
You kind of have to just let that suspension of belief happen. And they do a good job with that. I really do love Pete here. He notices her. He's so nice to her. And my favorite part is when he throws the basketball at the bullies.
Yes. At his face.
Well, what's crazy about the bully thing that I noticed is the guy, that mean guy, whatever his name is, in the orange shirt and the chain necklace, is not fit
No.
himself. He's not necessarily like a hot guy. He's pretty average Joe, honestly.
That's what
But he
bullies
thinks
do,
he's
right?
all that.
Yeah.
He thinks he's all that in a bag of chips.
And he probably doesn't have confidence himself.
Right.
And so he has to go around tearing other people's
Yeah,
confidence
being rude.
down. Yeah.
I've never seen some guy treat a girl like the bullies treat them openly like that.
It's
No,
rough. No wonder she has essentially an eating disorder.
Yeah.
No one's helping that situation because our own self-image is rough enough on ourselves. Having someone else say it is miserable. I remember once I was at like this youth group thing, and there was these two girls next to me that were my friends. They were twins. And then there was this other kid that we had met there, and we were in a room, and it was really crowded, so we were all sitting on the floor, and there was like not space, and I was like, well, come sit by me. He goes, well, I want to sit by her. She's prettier. And I was like, oh, okay. So it does happen.
Yeah, but that's different than like saying,
It is
I'm
different.
sorry, but you're a whale or something like that.
It's true. But like
still.
things still get said, and
You could have
feelings
went with-
still get
But they're
hurt.
subtler or not quite so attacking.
Dickish?
Yeah.
Yeah, he could have went with any other,
No thanks.
Yeah.
But I guess being 15, you just don't think.
I guess. So I'll take it one step further. It's bad enough with how you see yourself, but then we see her dad trying to be like, it's okay, you're so beautiful. Because to see your child, there is nothing worse than to see your child not love herself and just to feel like her confidence
Right.
is
Because I have the
tiny.
opposite, where my dad said, we're getting you a personal trainer.
Oh,
So I've had
Yeah.
both. I've had it both ways, where I was like, you guys think I'm ugly? And they're like, no, we don't. And I'm like, well, clearly you do, but thank you. So it's like, no matter what you say, I'm not going to believe you.
So to Daniel's point, I really, really love Pete Ross because of this episode. And not just like, oh yeah, what a good guy standing up for it. It's not a condescending politeness, not just because I was taught to be
Genuine.
polite. He genuinely cares about her and he is hurt for her. And as soon as she leaves, she's gone and he is still upset at them. And that's when he throws the ball. And even through this episode, as she loses weight in the scary way she does, he doesn't care for her differently. He doesn't treat her differently when she's skinnier. It's still the same Pete Ross, still showing that same care for her and her well-being. And so not just this moment, but the entire episode, I'm like, Pete Ross, he's the man. He is the one.
so then let me ask you, because he treats her no differently, what does that teach her?
Clearly that it's not the image, it's not the body image that matters here.
But then again, though, she's not interpreting it.
No.
She can't hear what he's saying.
No.
She can't hear or see that he's been nice to her this whole time. It's not in her realm of vision because her mental clarity is so bogged down by her negative self-image.
Definitely.
So even if he was super nice to her while she's fat for years before this, it doesn't matter.
And you can tell that he does notice that she looks prettier as she gets skinnier, but he already had feelings for her.
Clearly.
No matter how teenage boy-esque you are, you actually kind of get the difference between the bully and Pete and how they view her. Bully doesn't become interested in her until she's skinny. Pete's interested the whole way, but he's like, oh my gosh, I noticed your glow up, which is true in normal life too. Like if your spouse suddenly like dresses up extra and looks extra good, you feel more excited about them. You're like, oh wow, you look extra incredible. It doesn't mean you love them less than you do now. It just means that you're noticing that change. And that's the same thing as she gets skinny with Pete. Oh man, I really like the way you look, and kind of just reminds him how attracted he is to her already, which I love.
And I'm sure we're going to call to it as it happens in the episode. But Nicole, to your point of her not hearing and seeing this, she doesn't until Meteor Rock really has her almost trying to eat Pete. And she goes, Pete, you've always been good to me. Get away. And she removes herself from the situation.
Right.
And you go, it's starting to click to her that it's always been good. I don't want to cross this line here.
Right. So now that we're 30 seconds into the episode, let's keep going.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Lana, no necklace. I just wonder, I'm new to this, right? And I've noticed the last couple episodes, no necklace. So now that the writers want Clark Kent and Lana Lang to start getting close, is the necklace in it less and less?
I think we'll see a reason why. I did laugh here in the next scene where we see her at home. She's drinking the green smoothie with the meteor rock, so it's extra green. And I was like, really? Getting skinny while on a scale?
And the scale is
if
going
only.
down.
That's the thing. It's like, that's the dream. Like, if it had stopped at this point, I'd be like, best episode ever. Give me them of that smoothie, a millionaire in the making. Like, it sounds great up until, things go awry and she starts sucking fat off of stuff.
Yeah.
I would do this 100%.
My question,
I would not drink green smoothies. For
why
the rest
would
of my
you
life.
get off the scale? It keeps going down. Just stand there and don't get off until it stops, man.
Typically, the only way to get rid of fat is to breathe it out or evacuate your bowels. Those are the only two things that gets rid of fat, really, because it turns into carbon dioxide and you breathe it out. That's why you want to breathe heavily to lose some of your fat. But again, none of that's happening, and it's just going away. So it's just erasing
magic,
it.
Daniel. Calm down.
She could have the meteor poops, and we don't know
Let's
it.
just forget about the law of conservation and the fact that
Daniel, in the
matter
last
cannot be created
episode,
nor
an old man
destroyed.
fell into a koi pond and turned young in 5 seconds. She can lose weight, okay?
You guys, we're doing a podcast about something fake, and we have opinions about it. So
Even with fantasy and fantastical things, you have to have a grounding of realisticness that keep you somewhat grounded so that you're still interested.
Fine.
Especially if something is on Earth. If it's on Earth, some of Earth's rules still have to apply. If you just throw away Earth rules left and right and without reason, it does take away the immersion.
You don't know. Her breath could just be calories. You don't know.
That's what we need. Just that's what's
green
happening.
breath.
Calories. Just
Each
breathe out
exhale
calories.
is like it's like a pounds of calories. 3,000 calories.
Speaking of calories and exercise, we do see Lex exercising next. And I did forget that Lex never gets sick anymore and that he has an unusually high white blood cell count.
So he's clearly doing like some type of yearly examination for life insurance, so you have to do testing. And he has a little bit of testing come back, and the doctor says, "Oh, you have tons of white blood cells." And he goes, "Like leukemia? Unlikely, I never get sick." And the doctor kind of insinuates, "Well, I'm not surprised. Everyone in this town has got some weird anomalies. It's probably just the fertilizer." And he was like, "Are you kidding me? You're selling that to me? I run the plant here. Are you kidding? Let's run some tests."
Yeah, I didn't know Lex doesn't get sick.
All I know is if you ever visit Smallville, don't eat or drink anything.
Don't even breathe.
I swear.
Don't go swimming. Don't play football on the ice. Don't trust the football coaches.
Well, something I'm realizing is water tends to be a very big part of meteor rock stuff.
It's radioactive, and if you put any radioactive material into water, the entire water becomes irradiated.
Yep, we had heat coach, water activated, because of the sprinklers, the towel, that's all water. Then we have the kid who went into the lake, water. The guy who fell into the water and became young, probably water in the smoothies. Water from the plants and the dirt, pouring water on the vegetables.
Yeah.
It's a lot of water.
We're on a roll with that water.
So I want to see if that kind of stays in or not, because
I will say, though, that the kind of villain of the day thing that we get with the first couple of seasons starts to go away, and you get more multi-episode plot points happening.
looking
I'm
forward to
excited.
it.
Looking forward to it. So the next thing we have Lana. She's trying to get away from party planning.
I said one thing in this scene. Nell.
I wrote effing Nell having a party at the Luther mansion. How dare she? Maybe Lionel called that. Hey, we're going to use your house for a party. You have no choice.
I thought Lex was part of it, trying to make it so
he
that
was.
Clark could be there. You find out later that they don't outright say it, but Lex arranged Whitney's tryout for that
Kansas
day.
State.
100%.
So that
Yeah.
Clark could step
He's
in.
puppet mastering all the teens.
Yeah.
Which is, you get it from like him being Clark's friend, but also a little weird how connected he is to the teenage life.
I've always thought that. I
in
was like, he's
Smallville.
really into the teens. He's always hanging around at the beanery, hanging out with Clark. Like, you don't have to be friends with all the high school kids.
Yeah, gets a little creepy.
Well, he went to boarding schools and stuff. He never really had a normal high school life, so maybe he's vicariously
A
getting
bit of
it
Arrested Development, maybe.
Yeah,
I like
maybe.
it. And he's never had friends.
And he has all this money now, and he's like, here, you have a party, and you have a car and you have a computer lab or whatever.
Or he is just a main part of the show because the writers wanted him to be, and so they
Good
just...
call. Good call.
They wanted him with a drink in his hand, so he had to be 21.
Yeah.
See, you got it. You nailed it. So we get a little Superman reference in what Clark says to Lana here. She thanks him for saving her. And he says, well, it's not like I pulled you out of a burning building.
Right.
Yet.
The foreshadowing in this show is so funny. I never noticed all of it happening.
It's so hard in season 1 and season 2. They dial it back and let you just be enjoying Clark Kent at that point. But the first season and second season, it is so full of that all the time.
Did you notice in Lana's house, there's an old-timey phone on the wall?
No.
So when Nell comes in to talk to her about balloon colors, because white's the best color, there's like an old-timey phone.
Like rotary phone? Or?
No, older than that. Pick up the thing, put up to your ear.
What?
I'm serious. It's in there.
Maybe she collects antiques.
It could be. It doesn't look like it's functional, but it's there.
I mean, it could have been in there since the house was built.
So if you like background stuff, check out Nell talking about balloons, but look just to the right and there's an old-timey phone. We learn that Whitney won't be at the party because he's got a tryout.
Yay.
And Clark says Scout's honor. He could have been a scout.
He probably was a scout. Who wasn't a scout in 2001?
Yeah, maybe. I just thought it was funny because there is also like a lot of references to Superman being called the Boy Scout of America and stuff like
The
that.
Boy Scout?
Yeah.
So I noticed on Amy Adams' chin, I was like, oh, she's back.
No,
her-
they've added. There's still some. She's like
and you can tell in the,
cheeks. It's from her eyelids down.
yeah, it's a different texture.
Pete is genuinely a good guy. This is where I started to really notice that he already had a crush on her and it wasn't just friendship. But this did make me think of in How I Met Your Mother when they ask Barney Stinson if he goes to the gym. He's like, I have a gym membership, but I don't work out there. And then he talks about how he has investments at the gym, where how there's like a fat girl that starts going. He compliments her. He gets to know her because one day she's going to turn skinny and hot. And who's the first person she'll go to? Him.
And find him. So true.
He plays the long game with them. They're like all of his investments. That is what popped into my head because we've been watching How I Met Your Mother recently too. But that was just so funny to me. And I'm like, I'm so glad Pete isn't like that. But it is a little fun correlation.
It's amazing. No, Clark being a wingman that Lex has been for him. Being able to say,
Oh, yes.
yeah, let me answer every question for you while Pete just looks and smiles at you.
He's smitten. I wrote, Pete is so smitten.
It was so fun.
But, I mean, she lost a lot of weight overnight. I think they're all a little like, are you okay? Like,
We all wish it was that easy.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I really thought this part was funny. So Lana comes into the Kent home and is like, hey guys, like we hang out all the time. But in the pilot, he's like, you've never come over here. We've lived across the street for how long?
There might be some in between stuff where she's come over more now. And
I hope so.
They've done some
well,
studying
she's not there to
together.
hang out with Clark. She's placing an order for her birthday.
Yeah, but she's never been to his house in the pilot. So now
They're more friends, yeah.
And I do love how Clark's just easily carrying all of this stuff. And he's like, yeah, I broke right through that granite.
I love that.
With I had a sledgehammer.
Because he sees Lana.
So my favorite part of this scene is actually watching Martha
I
from the
love
kitchen.
that.
Just watching and listening to Clark take his shot with Lana and just almost like laughing at him and also like, are you serious? Are you serious, kiddo? That's what you go with? And then she even asks him about it. I love it. It's such a mom moment.
I loved
seeing
it.
my teenage daughter currently dating people and having to sit and listen to their conversations. Listen, I'm not trying to throw shade at any of the boys here, but my daughter genuinely believes that this boy, his idea of a dream date is to go watch a sunset and dance in the headlights.
What?
And I was like, kid is on the baseball team. I'm here to tell you that is not his dream date.
He's feeding you lines.
His dream date is do that for 5 minutes, then make out in the car.
Yeah. Yes, but she is naive, so we'll let
Teens.
her figure it out.
Yeah.
Pro tip. Boys will say anything they need to say.
And Nicole fell for a guy who said he was going to die. And
Yes. Yes. What? No. That's a whole other story.
For later.
We'll have to save it for an episode. Maybe if we get enough followers on our social medias and on our, wherever you listen to this podcast, maybe I'll tell the story about how I fell for a boy who told me he was dying. And I bought it hook, line, and sinker. Because I'm stupid.
Speaking of silly conversations, I love when Lana's like, promise me you'll be there. He won't.
Guess what? I was tricked. I thought that didn't even cross my mind that he wouldn't be there. I hate this.
Kim's trust issues continued.
You thought he was going to be there?
Yes.
Oh,
I don't know what I was thinking. Stupid
poor.
me.
That's kind of the MO of the superhero, is that it's very difficult to maintain a relationship. We had 3 Spider-Man movies, Tobey Maguire, that were all about that. So we do move on to the next scene after these funny teenage conversations.
Back to Jodie.
To her normal chin.
In her own self now, I think.
And she goes through the binge of all binges. Oh,
and it's not an enjoyable one. You can
No.
tell it's not enjoyable.
No, because she's not satisfied at the end.
I thought of 17 again in this scene when
Yes.
he's like eating all that garbage.
I'm just so
I'm just hungry all the time.
It's like, what are you eating? I don't know.
I don't even know.
Kind of shows that she went from almost eating nothing now to binge eating, which isn't going to do her any good because
No.
she's affected by kryptonite.
This is what happens when you starve yourself.
Yeah, it's true. And her body is starving itself. It's not her fault anymore. At this point, she's now beyond like reality.
She went from so strict to, I'm ravenous like a hungry badger.
Guys, she's been
so-
affected by aliens.
Yeah, so
I
she
mean, yeah.
goes for a drive. Do we know where she's driving?
She has just tons of fast food in her car. I think she went to I think she ate all the food in her house and is now.
We know she went to Church's Chicken because that was clearly. I don't know if you've ever had Church's Chicken. We don't really have them here in Utah. I like it more than Popeyes personally.
Sure.
And if there are people who are listening to this who love Popeyes and think I'm a heretic, I'm sorry. I'm not a fried chicken connoisseur.
The episode all of a sudden turns into Twilight.
I know. It's
There's
amazing.
a deer. She eats the deer.
No, I think she just sucks that deer dry.
Does
Sucks all the body
So
fat
do you guys
out.
think she's like eating, chewing, or is she like magically like sucking up fat?
I thought about this too. I don't know. We know that the fat is missing from the deer,
Right.
but how's she doing it?
I don't know. I feel like it would leave evidence if she was leaving like teeth marks
Teeth
and
marks,
stuff.
right.
Yeah.
Because
Even
they said it's cause is unknown. But if it was just like chomped on, they'd say a wolf ate it.
Yeah.
Right? It would be not so much of a mystery, but I think it's just a full deer with fat.
Yeah.
maybe she could be hired in Utah to be a liposuction specialist.
If she could control it.
Yeah, because it's a really big market here for that. So
Hey, let's write a book. Another
That's a good
Twilight,
idea.
but for fat. A monster
Fat
that
light.
he becomes a doctor and he keeps it under control by just sucking people's fat.
By lipoing,
Yeah.
making the world a better place. One suck at a time.
That'll be on the front of the book.
One suck at a time, yeah.
I love that. And it should be called...
I did hate the special effects of her jaw. So
And the special effects of that deer. That looked like claymation.
I wish they would have done something different. Doing the mummy jaw.
That's true. It's from the Mummy.
Yeah, I
But
didn't
I'm
like it.
Still, how are you getting the fat with the big jaw?
I would
Yeah, just
prefer
take
her
take a
puckering.
straw and just jab it in and start sucking, you know?
Suck it through their pores.
Do you have Bentley's quote on this?
Oh, yeah.
This is Bentley, our daughter. She was watching with us.
Her commentary was amazing. So when she watches with us, we're going to call them Bentleyisms.
I love it.
Bentley says, if she eats her dad because she's hungry, I'm a freak out. Because in all the past episodes, everyone kills their parent, right?
True. After Jodie sucks that deer dry, we get Stalker Clark. He's back.
He's back.
Bentley says, oh my goodness. What are you doing, you peeper? Don't be a creeper peeper.
That's amazing.
And just know she's playing on a game. We don't even know she's watching, and she's just saying these under her breath.
I love it. He is being a creeper. We call him Stalker Clark. And it's so embarrassing that Chloe catches him.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be like,
And he's embarrassed. I was embarrassed.
oh
for
yeah,
him.
I was embarrassed for him.
And that Chloe knows that it's Lana.
Oh, I know.
She just sees he's looking in a telescope and she goes, looking at Lana again? Oh,
This ain't the first time
This
she's
is the
caught
first
him.
time she's caught him watching Lana through his telescope.
That's true.
I guess we're assuming it's before school. She says there was a deer that got hit. Let's go before school to check it out. And we have to go to animal control. Let's use your pole, Clark. And he's like, what?
And then his poll ends up being, can I use the bathroom? So
Even Chloe's like, nice pole.
I know, that's such a Clarkism though. Like he would be like, I need your bathroom.
Because why? Because Clark is a terrible liar.
They get to animal control and they see the deer just happens to be right there in the first place they look. The door's locked. So Chloe's like, I'm going to go find a maintenance man, even though we're trying to be undercover. Asking a maintenance man for the key isn't suspicious at all. Luckily, Clark uses his magic finger to break that door open, just pop the lock.
Just do it a different way. Turn the lock harder. Do something. Not punch the thing through. And Chloe's just like, oh, okay.
Well, and then Chloe drops our Twilight reference of the
Yes.
week. And she says, what, do we have a fat-sucking vampire in town?
I love it.
Not the fat-sucking vampire.
Stephanie
our
Meyer
new
must have been
book.
watching this show.
We'll call the new book Fat.
Stephanie Meyer was watching Smallville, listening to Muse, and was like, vampires.
And the next scene is Lex doing research.
Reading a high school newspaper.
Right, and he's drinking orange juice. And Clark was drinking orange juice at Lana's house. And I just thought that's a lot of orange juice for people to be drinking in the middle of the day.
In the next scene, when the dad is trying to knock on Jody's room, he's like, can I come in? She's like, no, I'm indecent. And I wrote, well, of course she's indecent. She just sucked the fat out of an animal. That's very indecent of her.
I just feel so bad for her. I wrote, mental health is just as important as your physical health.
Yeah.
Ain't that the truth?
You know?
You can't even think to be healthy physically until you're healthy mentally. Mm-hmm. Can we just talk about the dad for a second? I keep going back to him, but that poor guy, he's like, I just want you to love yourself like I love you. Oh. He's like, no, you're beautiful. It doesn't matter what size you are.
So in this scene, Lex is he's at the school Torch newspaper office and he sees the Wall of Weird and there's an article about like 2-foot carrot. And to me, I didn't know if that was big or not. That it needed to be on the Wall of Weird.
Yeah.
So I looked it up and the biggest carrot was 22.44 pounds. And I can show you the picture. It was grown in 2017 by some guy in Minnesota.
Oh my gosh.
It's girthy.
It's huge.
So I don't know if it's 2 feet long, but it might be about 3 feet long. So I don't think that needs to be on the Wall of Weird.
Unless
That
there's
impressive.
something weird going on in Minnesota.
Maybe there's
Minnesota.
meteors there.
Yeah, maybe the women are talking about girthy carrots there.
Maybe. Girthy carrots and magic fingers. What an episode.
That pops our locks.
Oh my god.
All right. Speaking of girthy carrots,
Lex?
Lex used to be a carrot top.
My goodness.
He used to be a carrot top. And he's talking about it with Clark.
Which is important because he is sharing his story of how he lost his hair and why his health is in this situation.
So in this scene, after we look at the giant carrot in the Wall of Weird, former Carrot Top Lex Luthor is telling Clark all about how he went bald.
It's really important because he shares this story. It's very personal and he says he doesn't share it very often. Later in the episode, he actually says that he only shares this story with people he trusts. Mm-hmm. And that's when he's actually giving Dr. Hamilton $100,000 for research. That's a pretty significant difference. It's not a money thing. It's that he trusts someone more than money.
Mm-hmm. And Lex is generous. He's going to donate a whole computer lab to the school. And he also tells Chloe that he can like hook her up with a summer job at a newspaper.
And then Chloe's heart is just like, ah! You know, she's so excited.
Do you love how Lex is just in the school?
Yeah.
No visitors pass or anything. Oh, and one thing we haven't talked about yet is because this whole like the B story of this episode is it's Lana's birthday and Clark is kind of escorting her. He needs to get her a nice gift. And so it kind of gets brought up a lot. Like, what are you going to get her as a gift? Lex says, make sure you get her a good gift. And Chloe's trying to help him think of something. And the gift at the end does end up being precious, but we'll get there when we get there.
I know, it got me excited. I was like, what could it be?
But before fun, cute things, we have to talk about Jody making some really poor decisions.
Yeah.
Her tum-tum is growling.
I love this part, the bully. Let's just explain what goes on, Brett.
You know, honestly, I was a little uncomfortable. The bully starts giving her the elevator eyes.
After calling her a whale.
But then she starts getting real flirty And I'm watching this with my child in the room that apparently was hearing a lot more than I thought. And I was feeling a little uncomfortable when she was like, do you like what you see? Would you like to go see more? And then he's like, sure. You're like, gross. So then she takes him and they run off somewhere.
To the boiler room.
To the boiler room.
As one does.
Yeah.
Clark and Lana are talking on the bleachers. This is right before Clark saves the day. Lana's telling him, like, sometimes Whitney's just so far away and so distant, but when I need him, he's there. Which is literally what Clark is. Mm-hmm. It's no different. Clark is distant, he's kind of gone, but when he's there, he's there. So the fact that she, like, gets mad at Clark for missing the party, it's the same thing. Yeah. So it's kind of her type, I guess. So that's kind of the only thing of note, is that she's realizing that sometimes people can't be there all the time, but when they're there, it's important and it matters and it's enough.
Did you just compare Whitney to Clark and say they're the same? How dare you?
In Lana's eyes.
In Lana's eyes.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I just said, how dare you?
He's not Nell.
All I know is that in this scene on the bleachers, you see Jody taking the bully, and I was like, no, don't suck the fat off of the bully.
I know. Ew.
So gross.
His fat is tainted.
with
Tainted
rudeness.
fat. Ba-dum,
I
bum.
hated the boiler scene so much.
His wrinkled up face scared me and Bentley.
Well, I just said it's a good thing he's kind of chubby or he would have died. He had a little extra, so that was a good thing.
Well, I'm like, where are you touching? Like around her waist? Like I can't even.
No, she's like unzipping her pants with her hands.
No.
Yes.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Ew.
It's really gross.
It is, because she's like enticing him to get him close, to turn around and suck the fat out.
I just want you for your fat.
Yeah.
That's what my wife said to me. She just wants me for my fat.
Keeps me warm in the winter.
So, the boiler room scene, everything about it is uncomfortable.
Okay, so I was like, if I were Clark seeing that, I would think that they were just making out. I wouldn't know to like.
Maybe just because of who it is.
Yeah.
Maybe he thinks that she's being manipulated.
Can he tell who people are by their skeleton?
No, he saw them physically walk in.
Go in there. Okay.
So he
I didn't
knows that
remember
it's a bully and this fragile girl. So maybe Clark just can't help himself, or he wants to watch.
And maybe he thought that he was taking advantage of her.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, like he's manipulating her. I better go just make sure they're okay. Or just go x-ray vision to make sure things look consensual.
Yes.
So, everything about the scene, painful. I just give props to the practical effect. Bend that pipe out of my face.
I love
just
that.
casually like, whoa, what is this? I don't need that.
The thing is, even if, let's say, he didn't have powers, ducking
Oh,
would
yeah.
have worked.
No. He's so strong that he doesn't need to worry about ducking anymore. He can just move those things out of his way.
I know, but like, did she think that it was really going to stop anybody? Let me turn this dial and stop him so I don't get caught. Duck under. I mean, it was fun to see, I guess, but a little unnecessary.
Yeah, it's just, hey, this is Superman. We better show something Superman-y right here.
Right. In the next scene, when Lex comes to the Dr. Hamilton's house, I just love that he continues the tradition of all Smallville main characters by letting himself in without any
And did you
single
know
qualm.
when he pulls up, there is a little lemonade stand that says "Meteor Rocks for sale,
Yeah.
$5."
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's how he makes his research money.
Oh my gosh!
So the thing that caught me up the most about this is we learn that Dr. Hamilton is a mineralogist, he says. Not a meteorologist, a mineralogist. Okay. Studies minerals, I suppose. Lex kind of looked him up and said, I know you handled the Apollo moon rocks. Let's do some math. They went to the moon in 1969. So if he was old enough to be studying those rocks, how old is he now? Because he'd have to be at least in college minimum
This would be the year 2000.
in 1970.
Yeah, so he'd have to be
At least 50.
at least 50.
Let's just say he looks really great for his age.
Right?
I could buy that he's in his 50s. I could buy that.
Daniel, is this the other actor who is?
Yeah, so this is who plays Silas Stone in Zack Snyder's Justice League movie. We should all watch those at some point.
Yeah, Lex wants to fund his research, and I give props to Dr. Hamilton for saying no.
What do you think Lex's bottom line is?
Like, what's his point?
Yeah.
Because there's a theory that the Luthor Corp is poisoning and hurting people.
Yeah.
So if he can prove that it's meteor rocks, it's good for his bottom line and his company.
Okay, that
And
makes
it
so much sense.
probably helps him understand his own life
And his
a little
own
better.
right, and he also thinks that something's wrong with him because of the meteor shower. So he just wants proof that it's the meteor shower, not the plant.
And he probably thinks that's where Clark has his
Right. He
powers,
also
too.
has a big Clark mystery.
Yeah.
We learn from Chloe in the next scene that the fat sucked meanie is not going to die. He's just in a coma.
That's good.
We see Jody eating lunch, and she is famished, trying to eat bone-in chicken with a plastic fork and knife and getting 0 bites of food in her mouth.
For those without social understanding, it's not very polite to stare at somebody while they're eating in general, especially not while they're nervously binging. And yet Clark and Chloe are doing that.
That's all they can do.
stare at her.
And they're given the judgy eyes too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And she realizes it, and she's like, I better go eat this in
Private.
Private.
Okay, and then you know the trope where you're watching some movie or some TV show or something, and the kid comes into the kitchen and mom has made the breakfast of all breakfasts. There's pancakes stacked everywhere. There's, toast, there's bacon, there's eggs, everything. The kid takes one like tiny corner bite of toast. I gotta go to school. Bye, mom.
Yep.
Yes.
This is the same thing here where Clark sits down and 2 seconds later after she leaves, doesn't touch his food, says, I've got to go.
Does Clark need to eat?
Yes.
Why? The sun is his food.
No, it's not his food.
Brett has something to say. He's rocking his knee.
he still needs food to process everything inside of him. Like his body doesn't, like his insides still need the nutrients.
Would he
from
be
food.
okay eating a lot less or less often?
He would get skinnier, but he would still be stronger than he looks.
Yeah, so I mean, in theory, if he decided to hit the gym, he could get even stronger than he is.
Like Henry Cavill.
All right, get out the spray bottle on Nicole now. Since we've hit Daniel, now we're going to hit Nicole with the spray bottle.
Oh, I forgot to mention, I think
I think.
I think it was the end of last episode, right at the end. I think when Clark goes to see Cassandra, but she's dead. He is so freaking beautiful. Like the light hits his eyes. I think we almost need to like go find it. I was just like, oh, my uterus. It was so beautiful.
Fun little call out here in the episode. After Clark leaves with his untouched food, he's going off to work on Lana's birthday present.
Party prep.
And Chloe, really acting as all of us as the audience here, says, any hints? And he says, well, it's not a gift card. And that's kind of a fun thing just to tease for everyone that's watching the episode. We all want to know what Clark is doing for Lana's birthday too. He wants to do it special. We know he's tried to involve Lex. He tried to get Chloe to help him, but Chloe was no help. Just wanted to use him for his connections.
His bathroom pole.
His bathroom pole. That sounds awful. I'm sorry.
If somebody ever asks you to go see their bathroom pole, just say no.
Anyway, Clark and Chloe giving us as the audience a little tease as to what that birthday present might be. Which I don't know about you guys. I mean, I remembered a lot of this episode. I didn't remember what the gift was.
I remembered it as soon as Lana was telling the story.
Okay. So I was looking and trying to remember, and I was trying to make guesses. Did you have any guesses before?
Yeah, I thought maybe it had something to do with the drive-in.
Because they spent so many minutes discussing it.
Yeah.
Nice.
I noticed that Chloe, after Clark leaves, grabs a dessert
Yeah, I loved it.
off of Jody's plate.
Yes, I loved it.
And I was like, no, don't do the eating disorder.
We need Kim's drop in this one as well.
I
Just
know. Give me
give
some
me
of your
little
treats. So now we're at the Luthor mansion in Lex's office, of all places. His main hangout, the only room we see of the mansion, really. They're party prepping.
You're right, you guys. I just read the subtitles, so he drops the hint to Lana, not to Clark. Lex
I
does.
knew it. I knew it was the mention. She didn't believe me. I knew it. I
Yes.
remembered. Kim didn't remember. I am the best. Okay, that's
Daniel
enough.
wins this one.
But also, he just blamed it on Aunt Nell. He said, oh, your Aunt Nell told me. Because you know why? Nell is the worst.
Yeah.
Nell's literally Satan, but worse.
I don't know about that.
According to Nicole, every time Nell comes on screen or is mentioned, she's like,
I just have a newfound fury for her. We learned that Lex is helping Clark with the present, which I like that they're now friends. Not that he'd be like, hey, Lex, I need your help.
Yes.
I have this idea. Can you make it happen? And Lex is like, sure. How much money you want?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like some big extravagant thing when I found out that Lex was helping.
But it's still, even though it's simple, it's still beyond Clark's means. And I love that. I'm sure Lex was like, sure, here.
Yeah,
Okay.
and way better than extravagant, I think.
Yeah, it is. Clark is about ready to go to the party. His teen endorphins are high. He's stoked. He's got a great present planned. But Chloe comes in to ruin his fun by somehow learning that it was Jody's car that hit the deer, because I guess she's asking every auto shop in Smallville if they had any stuff come in the night before.
I mean, she's
well connected.
Well, she's also a journalist, a
She's
real
thorough.
journalist. She will go to whatever length necessary to get the story.
So they learn that she's killed the deer, and they realize Pete's about to go see her.
Yeah.
Dum,
And she's
dum,
now sucked the
dum.
fat off a dude, sucked the fat off a deer. Pete's next.
So this is what Bentley said. Well, Pete's going to die, guys. If she eats the flowers, I'm okay with that.
That Pete brings her.
That was a huge bouquet of flowers.
It's like a dozen roses.
So pretty.
Yeah, but it was big.
Yeah, and she looks really nice in her red dress.
Yeah.
And Pete looks nice, and they're going to go on a date. It's going to be
Now-
great. But then tummy troubles.
Ravenous.
She's not just totally evil.
Yeah.
Because
No.
like with Bug Boy, he went from goopy to evil in about 1 second.
Yeah.
And she's not evil.
She's being controlled by her
Mental illness.
mental illness and her
essentially.
cravings, essentially.
Yeah, which is...
That's the title of the episode. Cravings. Craving.
Okay, so for any of you that have children out there, you may have seen the cartoon TV show called Miraculous. And in each of the episodes, there is some creature that overtakes somebody that's dealing with something in their life, some big emotion, something.
Yes.
And it makes that exponentially bigger. And that is the problem of the episode. All I can say is that's exactly what they've done with these Villain of the Weeks. Greg Arkin, man, he had a problem with bugs, and it just exponentially got worse.
That guy was kind of a player, and he sucked the heat out of people.
I will say that in this scene, I also noticed that Pete would have overlooked her weirdness and her shyness and everything. He follows her into the house. He's willing to still be there for her, even though she's acting very, very, very strange.
Like, he would have been perfectly happy if they had just stayed in their house and,
Yeah,
like, been
and hung
together
out.
and talked.
Yeah.
He didn't need to take her to the party to be happy.
Yeah.
But she's like, I gotta go to the party. It's my dream.
When she leaves Pete to protect him, Bentley goes, "Oh, good job, Jody."
Like, good job for leaving him. Yeah. And she
Yeah.
goes and hides in the kitchen of all places. And she's like, please leave.
Yes.
I don't want to hurt you. But then, like, she sees him. Her animalistic, fat-sucking vampire instincts take over, just like in Twilight. Mm-hmm. And she goes to attack Pete. And I love that he goes unconscious. It's
Trauma
just-
tracker.
Exactly. Another concussion. Because if he had been conscious, this whole thing couldn't have worked. Mm-hmm. But because he was unconscious, we can have the whole Clark fighting
Hero
Jody.
always needs them unconscious.
I know.
So she goes in to bite him, goes in to suck some fat off of Pete, and Clark just walks in like everyone does. You just walk into places.
Well, he sees Pete's car in the front. I don't think Clark is willing to knock to...
Save the day.
He's just going to just do it.
Yeah.
And Pete's unconscious. Jody runs out to the greenhouse behind their house. The reason why the fight's actually a fight is because there's meteor rock everywhere. And Clark's like, oh, this is not my favorite
Yes, and
place.
she uses a shovel.
Yeah, she
So
does.
why she went for a shovel, she doesn't know that Clark knows what's going on.
No, but she's...
She's like, "Let me knock you out so I could suck your fat."
So she knows that Clark knows what's going on because he was in the boiler room and she tried to stop him in the boiler room. She tried to burn his face off with hot air water. So now they're...
So true.
What I like about the fight in here is because she kind of loses herself for a second and she's about to, shove a shovel into Clark's midsection because she doesn't know it's not going to work. But then she sees like a reflection of herself kind of all shattered and it kind of takes her out of the trance of do whatever it takes. And sadly, it completely 180s her to save yourself no matter what to end yourself no matter what. She's not there to hurt Clark anymore. She's just there to hurt herself.
Yeah.
Which is really sad because if she went that way that fast, it was already there.
Clark escapes the explosion with her.
With Lois Lane in his arms. Oh,
Jody?
wait, I mean Jody. Shout out to Amy Adams in Man of Steel.
True. So she's unconscious, of course, but Pete's awake. Perfect timing.
And Pete still cares for her even now.
I know, but he didn't see her mouth go all big, so it's all right. He might have liked that, though. Well, and then we cut to the party, which Clark has now essentially missed, even though that whole encounter only took.
I feel like he could have used his super speed and gone to the party.
I guess he's staying with Pete to make sure she doesn't come to, get in an
Jody
ambulance,
getting everyone taken.
calling
police
adults
statements.
probably.
He does mention later that he had to discuss it with the cops and stuff too.
There was an explosion. I mean,
yeah.
In my notes, I put, he stood her up. So annoyed.
I know, but you get a little Lana Lex moment, which is pretty rare.
Yeah.
And we learn something sad about Lex is he spent most of the Luther parties in the coat room.
Yeah.
Not even like on the balcony or like in a different room, but in the coat room.
Mm-hmm.
That's like real lonely to stuff. I assume he wasn't alone for some of those. So Clark does miss the party. He doesn't come to it at all.
He goes back home and sees his parents, and he says, I can't believe I let her down. He forgot to say again.
Yeah, second time. But he is not her boyfriend. And he was saving the day both times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, it's just a hard lesson that he has to learn. That sometimes you have to choose between someone you love and doing
what's right.
It's like how doctors or surgeons make that choice to be on call and they just will have to leave sometimes, and you miss birthdays and you miss events because you're saving someone. You're doing like your vocation, you're doing your calling because that's who you are.
Yeah.
You're making me want to change careers. I still get called away, and mine is not for helping people like doctors.
Oh no.
It's a job.
So after Clark talks to his parents, we get a little shortcut of Lex reading a letter in an envelope, which tells him he's not sick at all. He doesn't have anything wrong with him. And he did all that testing at the beginning of the episode, and he's perfectly fine. But he's still intrigued. So where does he go?
Dr. Ham.
Yes, back to Dr. Hamilton's. He basically almost blackmails Dr. Hamilton and also gives him a juicy $100,000 check, which, is that a lot?
Back then, yeah.
Back then?
It's huge. Especially now to a guy who's making all of his money selling $5 media rocks. It's
And I guess if
probably a
you're
lot
on
of
your own, that's just paying his salary, essentially.
Yeah.
money.
Right?
And I noticed that Lex will use any tool, even a broken one.
Progress.
If it will, progress him towards his purposes.
What do you mean?
Well, this guy, he's using him as a tool, and he's a broken tool. He's a broken person.
True. I like that. Yeah.
After this, we do get to see that Clark did have a plan, and he goes to Lana to show her the plan.
And the best part of that whole thing is the song that Enrique Iglesias.
Let Me Be Your Hero
Oh,
by Enrique
so good. As soon as it
Iglesias.
came on, I was like, da-da-da, I love it.
I know. It was so cute. And he made it up to her, so I'm no longer mad.
And did you notice how young she looks in the car with the
She's
puppy?
so like childlike and
Yeah.
cute and happy and like
Yeah, she looks like a 14, 15-year-old girl
she's
all of a
like
sudden.
it's the best part of her whole day.
Yeah.
You know?
Which I think is genius writing, because the last time she was in a drive-in movie, she was a child.
And she
Yeah.
felt perfectly safe. And I
Yeah.
think she feels pretty dang safe right now.
Well, I don't think she'll ever not feel safe around Clark as long as things continue. Like, even if he lets her down sometimes, he is a safety type of person to her because that is the vibe he gives off.
And they're watching classic Looney Tunes, and Daniel loves Looney Tunes.
I do.
So Daniel can tell us about that.
I watch Looney Tunes all the time. You can actually find a ton of them on YouTube. You can just look up Looney Tunes and you can find Tom and Jerry and Looney Tunes and all those like old shows if you wish to.
I love it.
Cute.
So speaking of the music that we were talking about, what was the music in this one, Brett?
So we really have Let Me Be Your Hero by Enrique Iglesias.
The best of the whole.
And then we also have Slide by Dido. Look up Dido. There's some songs you know. This one is not one of their most popular, but this was a fun one for sure. So yeah, that was really the music from this episode.
Just the two.
Not a
Just
ton.
the two. No, not a ton. You can see that we're into the mid-season,
Yeah, the filler.
right? We're into filler episodes. We're not trying to ramp up, anything crazy. Budget is probably a little smaller on this episode.
Yeah, no giant cars exploded, just a greenhouse.
Which is still a big old explosion.
That's true.
Yeah.
Have we had an episode without an explosion yet besides last
What happened
episode?
in the last one? The car tires exploded. The corn exploded.
All right. And finally, what do we rate this episode with? I say it's a man episode.
Filler equals man.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, there's not much to say.
I will say it's one of the better filler episodes.
It
At least
is.
there's-
It's memorable. Bentley's not going to forget this episode. She'll be like 30 and be like, remember that one time you guys were doing that podcast? And I had watched that weird episode where that girl was sucking the fat off a deer? So it's memorable.
Yeah, no, there's again fun things always. Finding Amy Adams in here, Dr. Hamilton.
Yep.
Those call outs are fun.
Still just filler though.
Nothing that moves any story along
nothing.
here.
No. It's fun. So I hope you liked it.
And when I rewatch Smallville again, I will be skipping this.
But we do this for you, the listener.
Yes.
So give us a thumbs up. Follow. Share this on your Instagrams, on your Twitches, on your TikToks, on your Facebooks. Share it with your aunt, not Nell. Share, like...
If you have an Aunt Nell, don't share it with her.
Yeah, she can suck it.
But not like the fat out of her.
Speaking of sucking fat,
Thank you for remembering Smallville with us. Join us next week when...
A tarp trembles.
Chloe's dad does stand up.
And Earl pushes a button. See you then.